know, this month, if you don't know, is Pastor Appreciation Month. And so I thought it was a really good time for me to speak. So I'll be accepting all gifts and accolades on behalf of Dan and Robin this week. Also, we really could call it just open season on Dan. Because if you don't know Dan, well, if you've heard him speak, he loves to tell jokes and he loves to be roasted, right, Ken? And Ken, I want you to know, I do have funny things to say. Okay. You know, the problem is, though, this morning I was getting ready, I was doing my makeup, and I was like, you know, I gotta present a little better this morning. So I put perfume on. I know. And I was like, you know, they're not gonna smell me on the television. I don't know what I was thinking. But I thought about, you know, the most difficult thing is, I think we all think of funny things. It's remembering it. Is that the hardest thing? So as I thought about that, I'm thinking, okay, I'm gonna like bring in my inner Ellen DeGeneres, and I'm thinking about that, and then I was like, babe, what are we having for lunch today? And then it was all out the window. So today I'm going to, when Dan asked me to speak, or he was like, would you like to speak? And I was like, oh, I'm exhausted. I can't even think straight. And I told Jill, I'm like, frankly, I'm not in the mood because I'm just, I don't know, I've worked 15 days straight and I'm working until next, I don't even know, because I work next weekend. So it's gonna be like a month straight. So you're getting a rookie who's exhausted. So give me a break. But I decided to take on the audacious task of peace. Why not, right? And you might say, who gives you the authority to speak on peace? Nobody. What I did is I kind of cheated. I went back into some of my journal entries over the years, just my personal kind of entries and thoughts. And I was like, you know what? This is what I'm going to talk about. Because who doesn't need a little bit more peace right now, right? I mean, we've got natural disasters going on, multiple this year in our community. We've got all sorts of political upheaval from local, state to federal. People are struggling financially with the cost of living. And I thought, you know, to me, this is about how can we accomplish what's going on inside? Because oftentimes we look for peace on the exterior, but really, it's all here. And when we were born and fashioned and created, we were born and fashioned, created with everything we already need. So sometimes we just need to be reminded of that. So the road to inner peace, I want to talk first about what peace is not, right? So peace is not avoiding conflict. How many sometimes people think, I'm just going to keep the peace, I'm not going to say anything? Right? Yeah, it's like, feels like it's the easier road. But when we avoid peace or avoid conflict, oftentimes we start a war within, right? How many times have you thought, oh, I really need to say something. I'm not going to say something. I don't want to get it up, you know, people up in their panties in a wad. I don't know if I'm allowed to say that from the stage. Am I allowed? Okay. And so we just don't say anything. And then what happens? We think about it when we're going to bed. We think about it when we wake up. It's, you know, infiltrating our thoughts during the day. It's constantly in our mind. It's causing anxiety. There is no internal peace. And I have a bone to pick with schools that I grew up in. I think the major myths that we had growing up in schools is teachers teaching us how to deal with conflict. Like, no one tells you, hey, for the rest of your life, you're going to deal in conflict. You're going to try to avoid it. It is only going to cause you more problems. So here's A, B, C, D to do. And not until you like actually actively go into like leadership training do you start to get some skills in how to deal with conflict, have difficult discussions, and all of that. So peace is not avoiding conflict. Peace is not being a doormat, right? Just letting it go. You know, it's misrepresentative as a passive or weak. just trying to stay quiet, let things go. We know that it takes courage to say something and to do it respectfully and to have difficult conversations. Peace is not a quick fix. It is, and it doesn't come quickly either. It takes time. It takes self-awareness. It takes practice. It takes patience, self-compassion to find that well of peace. And lastly, it's not our final destination, right? I would love to find a well of peace and just like camp next to it and just stay there. But the fact of the matter is life constantly brings up new conflicts, new challenges, and so we always have to be cultivating peace in our lives. So as I was reading kind of like I mentioned, my journal notes, specifically about peace, and you might know this about people who speak. Oftentimes they speak about the things they struggle with the most. So if this is not revealing about a little bit about Erin Minor, peace is a hard thing for me. I deal with anxiety. When I come to church on Sunday morning, you might think, oh, she's pretty cool and chill. Just talk to Jill. She'll tell you that's not the truth. So when I was thinking about peace for my own life and what does my journey look like over the past several years? These are the stepping stones to inner peace. And I want to talk briefly about each of them. And I'm talking going to go over each of them. They all could probably be their own separate message. But these are the 5 areas of what I call stepping stones to inner peace for us personally. Identity, humility, kindness, contentment, and resilience. So we're just going to talk a little about each. Identity, which is probably the most important. ChatGPT, and if you don't know what that is, Google it, says that identity is the unique combination of experiences, thoughts, and feelings that form an individual's self-perception. The Oxford Dictionary says, a sense of oneself as a separate individual being a distinctive personality and a true self persisting over time. I think identity for all of us is the most important thing that we can concentrate on above anything else. When we are born with expectations immediately from our parents. Maybe we have older siblings. I know my 2 older brothers were expecting me to submit to them. It didn't happen. In fact, I have this funny story. My mom said it when I was, still drinking out of a bottle. If you don't know, the birth order of my siblings is Jim is the oldest, plays piano, Dan, pastor, me, and then I have 2 younger brothers. So I grew up in the middle with my elbows out. But when my older brothers would play video games, I would take the nipple of my bottle, I would get behind them, I would just bop them on the head, back and forth, like whack-a-mole. And they couldn't do anything because I'm only this big, so they can't shove me or something like that because they'd be in deep doo-doo with mom. And so I'd be like, Erin, stop doing that, stop doing it. Okay, walk away, come back. Bam, bam, bam. Oh, gosh. I don't know where that came from. Right, yeah. Anyway, when we're born with all these types of expectations. And I don't know, I've been in the social work world for 20 years. I've been working at Harvest House for 20 years. Well, social work world for about 22 years, at Harvest House for 20. And oftentimes, when we're serving folks, and this is not just to the folks we serve, I think it's for all of us, when we are experiencing maybe addiction to anything, depression, anxiety, unhealthy family dynamics, relationship struggles, I think oftentimes it's rooted in identity issues. We don't know who we are. We don't know what we value the most. We're looking for external affirmations from a world that's not going to give it to you. Because I don't know how many companies exist around the world, millions and millions, but they can't sell their product to 8 billion people if they're not telling us that we're inadequate. right? You're either too tall, you're too wrinkly, you're too young, you're educated too much, you're not educated enough, right? They've got to somehow figure out ads. You're not rich enough, you're not cool enough, you don't have enough style. And they can't accomplish their revenue streams and their profit margins and all that if we're not buying into our inadequacies. But at the core of all that is going after our identity, right? If you look at in your own life, you think about, who am I? Like, really, who am I? Yeah, I'm Erin Minor. I'm a female. I'm married to Jill. I'm the daughter of Jim and Peggy Minor. I'm the sibling of 4 OK brothers. I'm a CEO, all the things. But if I dropped all of that, who am I walking down the street? I love this quote by Brene Brown. I inserted the word identity. She says worthiness is a birthright. I just put identity as a birthright. And I think because of the world we grow up in today, that we don't know that we are worthy of a good life, to know who we are, to stand strong in that. A couple years ago, there was a gentleman in one of our programs, and I had seen him. And it's just one of those people you can tell really struggles with self-worth. And I went over to him and said, hey, I'll use the name Bill, and she just said, hey, Bill, I just want you to know you are worthy of a good life. And he just started tearing up. And this man, my guess is late 50s, early 60s. And he just needed to hear that. How you see someone and they got to hear something good about themselves. So I just spoke to him for a couple minutes. And about 2 years later, unfortunately, he needed to come back into the program. And he walked into my office and said, do you have a minute? I said, sure. He sat down. He said, you remember that day in the parking lot? You told me that I was worthy of a good life. He said, I'm still working on that. He said, but I think about it all the time. I think about those words ring in my ears and something no one has ever told me. So I just want you to remember, if you don't take away anything else today, is to focus on your worthiness and your identity. Because everything else we're going to talk about here for the next few minutes, that your identity is foundational to the rest of this. Think about this as a pyramid, building blocks. It starts in identity. You might be able to accomplish some humility, some kindness, but it always ends up going sideways when life starts to boil. If we don't know who we are. So if you want to take a picture of this with your phone, these are some questions I try to ask myself continually to remind myself who I am. And sometimes that changes, right? Sometimes we grow over time and things change. But what are my core values? And there's a lot of values out there you can choose from. But take the 4 or 5 that you're like, this is what I want to live. What am I passionate about or enjoy doing the most, even if there's no reward? What are my strengths? I didn't put what are my weaknesses, if you notice. We're all aware of that, right? I think we need to focus on our strengths, be good at that, fine-tune those, and let our community, our spouse, the people around us, lift us up in our weaknesses. Let them be good in their strengths, right? What significant experiences have shaped me? Sometimes we don't think about that. I've lived, it'll be 42 years next month. And it's only in the last few years I started to think about, what are those significant experiences really shaped my life? How have I changed over time? If you haven't changed over time, I got news for you. There's a problem, right? We should be changing over time. We should be learning and growing. This is my favorite question. When do I feel most authentic? When do you feel fully alive? When do you feel fully, fully yourself? Like you're not hiding anything. You're not thinking about how do I look? Does my hair look okay? Right? People in the back of me in church say I do this a lot, and I have a hair thing, and I say I'm not even thinking. It just happens. But when do I just feel most alive, most authentically myself? How do I perceive myself, right? Do I have self-defeating talk? Do I rehearse things my mom said to me, my dad said to me, my siblings say to me? And then last, this is a little off topic, but I love it, and it leads into a quote that I'm going to read here. What is standing in between the life I live now and the unlived life inside of me? And I bring up this quote, the author of Steve Pressfield from War of Art. If you haven't read his book, I highly recommend it. Most of us have two lives, the life we live and the unlived life within us. Between the two stands resistance, or sometimes fear. The rule of thumb, the more important a call or action is to our soul's evolution, the more resistance we feel toward pursuing it. And to me, this leads directly to identity. I think one of the most difficult things for all of us as humans is to figure out our identity. And it's not like you're just an aha moment, you can figure it all out. I think every year, every decade, we add or unveil, however you decide to go, a little bit more about who we are and how our Creator created us. Let's talk about humility. Once we start to, and identity is also a journey, right? This is anybody like not continuing to learn about themselves, or like doesn't matter how long you live, you're going to continue to learn, hopefully, more about yourself, your identity, who you are. Another stepping stone to peace for me is humility. I think humility is essential for healthy relationships. I think it is maintaining a posture of a student so we can stay curious about one another as humans, as neighbors, as family members, and to continue to learn about ourselves. If we think we know it all, we got it all taken care of, we got, life figured out, we're missing out on something. We don't have the humility to say, you know what, I don't know everything. I don't even know everything about myself. I'm still figuring it out. The last thing about humility I'll say is that I think it helps us, or causes us maybe, to look at humanity of each person through the lens of love. When we are taking that posture of a student, we're able to look at each other through humility, through that posture of being willing to learn, that we can look at each other through that lens of love. And when we look at another person through the lens of judgment, whether it's based on all the things that we judge people about, oftentimes we are revealing our own insecurities, right? We've heard that before. It's like oftentimes we'll judge people more harshly than the things that we're struggling with. That's why I'm preaching about peace today, right? And that's pride or arrogance or maybe a lack of really knowing who you are when we start to judge others and look down on others. When we can start to grasp that humility in our own life, look at people through the lens of love, you know what becomes easy? Kindness. When we can look at each other from a position of humility, we know who we are, we're on that journey of humility. I think, these are all my own opinions today, that kindness becomes easier. It just does. It's like, I know who I am, so can I use you for an example? Katie, will you come up here? Stand with me right here. Okay. All right. I love Katie. And Katie,
Loves you.
There, all right. Yeah, no, that's all you have to say, unless you want to add to it. Katie and I think, on the outside, people would say you can't be much more different, right? I got more of a tomboy look, kind of that athletic, lesbian vibe, whatever you want to call it, I don't know, right? And she's like Vogue. Got it together, her outfit's just like, I don't know, what do you all say? La fit, what do you say? When someone's got a nice fit? Oh, I can say that? Slay? I don't know. She slays.
I think you slay.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, okay. You want to stay up here with me? What was I saying?
That I'm great.
Yes, I was saying that you were great. No, what I was saying is when you're on this journey and you start to add these layers to your life and these values to your life, instead of seeing the difference as a bad thing between us or others, I so admire Katie for exactly who she is, right? It's like you put me and Katie together and we can add so much to the world.
We love you.
If we're separated, I can only add what I have, and Katie can only add what she has. And I don't think that this is an addition thing. I think this is a multiplication thing. When we bring together, it's like puzzle pieces, right? I think it's when we fit together and we're not trying to compare, right? Comparison game is terrible, because if I'm going to compare my wardrobe to her wardrobe, I'm going to lose every time, okay? And I'm okay with that, because you know what I get to do? I get to admire hers. And then sometimes I'm like, maybe I can pull that off. And I go home, Jill goes, no, you shouldn't try that. I was like, okay, I'll leave that to Katie. Who loves Katie? And unfortunately, you all probably heard our Pride event got canceled yesterday, so some of us are trying to represent. Hopefully we'll be able to do something in the future, but of course, because of everything going on with our natural disasters, the board there felt it best to just hold off. But we're still celebrating Pride. So kindness. I want you to think about what kindness looks like to you. And when have you been caught off guard by kindness? Can anyone think of a moment where you're like, either you want to say something about it?
I'll say something.
You want to say something? All right, I want to hear. Jose, say something. I want to hear.
Last night, I get a text from Katie saying, hey, is anyone going to be at the church at 9:30? I bought brownies for everyone because of everything we're going through. So all those and I was just like, how kind, how sweet. So all the brownies out there are for all of you from Katie. So thank you for that. I was caught off guard last night.
Jose, tell us how you've been caught off by kindness. Who doesn't love Jose? I mean, come on.
Okay, this is very intimidating. I feel like, Anna and I were just saying here, and it was kind of that simple, just like walking in here and like the kindness, not only that like I think we both experienced when we first came here, but then also just like the continued kindness that I continue to receive, and it feels very safe here. And it's always caught me off guard, but then it's also like one of those moments where it's like, okay, if I can encounter kindness here that surprises me, I feel like there's other spaces in the world that I can encounter like kindness that is disarming and safe and stuff like that.
I love it. Thank you. Thank you. And we can bring it with us, right? Sometimes when you meet folks and they've never experienced, from a young age, a safe, loving family environment, it can be an uphill road and much more of a battle to get to these places that we're talking about. To give a chance of walking, like Jose said, through the doors of a church again, and to be caught off guard by kindness. It's a beautiful thing, an unfortunate and terrible thing. But I'm proud of this community and this family. Where am I? Kindness. I think we all got kindness. I have a couple of things I like, and this is for us as a congregation, community. Not only are humans hardwired for love and belonging, kindness, you can add a bunch of things, but especially love and belonging, but we are absolutely deserving of it too. And we got to remind ourselves and remind others of that. We don't have to earn love and belonging. Now, the world wants us to believe that. Companies who are selling us products want us to believe that. But we are absolutely deserving of love and belonging. Regardless of a person's past, present, or future, to love other people and to feel lovable is inalienable, divinely ordained right that we, as Harvest, pledge to defend to the end. And that's why this community exists. Albert Schweitzer said, "Constant kindness can accomplish much. As the sun makes ice melt, kindness causes misunderstanding, mistrust, and hostility to evaporate." Have you ever been in a room where you could just feel the tension, the mistrust, and someone, go ahead, Merle, I don't want to get in your picture. Someone who's got maybe more maturity than you did at the time, or I did at the time, walks in and dispels it with kindness. It can be in their eyes. It can be a quick word that they say. And we all carry that in us. Now, I'm not saying it's going to make all the conflict go away, but it's going to create an environment where dialogue can happen, that people do feel safe. So those conversations can begin to happen. One last quote about kindness, which I love this. Life is mostly froth and bubble. Well, maybe in Katie's world, but I don't think it's froth and bubble in my world. I see you in froth and bubble, and frills, and two things stand like stone: kindness in another's trouble, and courage in our own. I don't think there's anything more beautiful that we can do as humans and here at the Harvest than to be kind in another's trouble. Right? Jose kind of said it without saying it. Looking for a church where Jose can be Jose. Probably troubling, probably discouraging, all the things that you went through, looking for a church home. And you all, you're raising your hand? You too. You all were kind in a neighbor's trouble. There is not anything more beautiful than that. It's easy to be kind when other people are being kind. It's easy to be kind when things are fine and dandy and there's no conflict, or you're not hoeing a difficult road or anything like that. But to be kind in another's trouble is heaven. Another layer of a road to inner peace is contentment. The state of being satisfied with what one has and is, without constantly seeking more or being envious of what others possess. Not just physical things, but also maybe their personality. Honestly, I grew up being jealous of my two older brothers. If you don't know Jim and Dan well, they're brilliant. They have minds, they can learn anything, they can do anything. And frankly, I didn't grow up with that mind. School was really hard for me. Really hard for me. I still remember my 4th grade teacher. Reading comprehension was just like, I got a D the first time I took it. It was terrible. I've always struggled in school. And those two were whizzes. They just would read it, they would remember it, they could recite it back to you, they could take a test on it. And in fact, Dan took tests without studying and aced it. I would study for days and I would get a C. I was like, how is this possible? I hate you. right? But when I started to figure out these layers of identity, right? Who am I? What do I bring to the world? I don't have to get an SAT score of like 1350 or whatever they got. I think the first time I took it, I got a 1050. And then the second time I took it, it went down. I know. I was like, you know what? Whatever college accepts me, that's where I'm going, okay? But I had to start to figure out, I can't compare myself to Dan and Jim. They have a different skill set. Who am I, right? And so being content helped me to stop with that comparison game, and those layers, starting with identity. But being content is closely tied to a positive mental health, as you can imagine. Reduces dissatisfaction and turmoil for a million different reasons. It frees us from the comparison game, right? Knowing who we are and being content in that, what I've got to give, who I am, who I'm gonna be. I mean, imagine if we were all Dan in this room. Right, exactly. I mean, the world can only hold one Dan, right? I mean, I love his skill set and all that kind of stuff, but, right? KK said she would never get an email from anybody. I told you it's open season on Dan, AKA Pastor Appreciation Month. But no, really, we all have got to be us. This is why this community is so beautiful. And something I just personally, I think about all the time is how beautiful the tapestry of humanity is. I mean, when you go into museums and all these places and you see like one of those, I don't know, carpet, rug, like tapestry things, I'm probably insulting them calling it a carpet or rug, but that's all the big ones that are on the walls. Imagine they were just all one color, right? Or all one figure, all one shape. I see humanity as a tapestry and how exquisite it is, how profound it is, how we all can look at it and take different things from it, just like a piece of art. Contentment creates an environment to practice gratitude regularly. Anyone struggle with gratitude once in a while? I don't want to be grateful right now, okay? You ever been there? You're just mad, you're angry, you're exhausted, whatever is going on, and you just don't want to be grateful. You don't even want to say thank you to your spouse for getting you your coffee this morning because you're just pissed at the world. Sorry, babe. But does that happen to you, right? I think when we begin to practice contentment in our lives, and again, this is a layer to this process, that practicing gratitude becomes maybe a little bit easier. You can do it a little bit more regularly. And all this adds to a positive mental health outcome for ourselves. An important thing about contentment, it is not a lack of ambition. Instead, it allows us to pursue our goals and dreams from a place of fulfillment rather than a sense of lack or inadequacy. You can be content and also pursue your dreams. You're just not pursuing your dreams out of a lack of identity or inadequacy or I'm not good enough. Anybody have imposter syndrome in here? Dealt with it my whole life, right? It sucks. Always coming to a place where I'm not good enough, I'm not as good as everyone else in the room. I see a therapist, saw one weekly for 27 months. Woo woo. Best thing in my life, changed my world. I did EMDR therapy in particular, really helped me. And something that she's said many things that stuck with me, but one of the things that she stuck with me is, Erin, and this is she got paid a lot of money for this. Not everyone is as smart as you think they are. Right? And I was just like, well, what do you mean? She's like, why do you go into these rooms thinking everybody in the room is smarter than you? You know less than them. They know more than you. Why? I'm like, I don't know. You tell me. You're the therapist. Imposter syndrome. So she's like, you've done this how many years now? I'm like, I don't know at the time, 18 years. How many fires have you dealt with? I don't know, I can't count. Millions. Like, all the things, right? How many uphill battles? I can't even count. You've been through struggle. I mean, growing up gay in an evangelical home, where it was like the biggest no-no of all no-nos, right? And carrying kind of that, and culture shift, and all the things that go with it. And she said, why is it when you walk into a room, you feel like you are less than everybody else? She goes, I would beg to say, you've probably got more to say and more life experience in your 40 years than most people have in their 60 or 70 years. Because your dedication and your courage to continue to walk through these things. I was like, thank you, Kathleen. I will pay you double this week. Does anybody ever pay you double? No. I didn't pay her double, but I probably should have. The other thing, and I'll pass this along because I paid for it, so I feel like I can give it away. Other thing she said to me, which I've held on to, is you will always be able to handle what is on your plate. Look back at your history, write it down if you need to, of what you've come through. And if you do that, and you compare what's on your plate right now, you will remind yourself that you've got this. Right? We often don't look back and to remind ourselves how resilient we have been, the journey we've come on, to remind ourselves, I've got this. Look how many obstacles I've already overcome. If I've done all this, I can certainly do that. That was a freebie. Last thing, I would talk about this. So we've got identity, foundational to everything, really. We got humility, to be able to see each other in their humanity, in their strengths, maybe in some of their difficulties, offer grace, which then leads into kindness. It's so much easier to be kind when we know who we are and we're humble. We're threatened when we don't know who we are. We judge other people when we don't know who we are, all right? Contentment, practicing contentment and gratitude. And then lastly is resilience. Because peace is not easy to maintain. Resilience equips us with the ability to navigate life's challenges, adapt to change, and recover from adversity. Resilience enables personal growth, emotional well-being, and success in both personal and professional contexts. When we know who we are, and we create a healthier community through humility and kindness, we strengthen our resilience muscle. And it takes resilience to continually cultivate peace in our lives. So I could have left resilience out on this list. In fact, it was originally out. Because like I said, I went back to some of my journal entries when I'm working on my own journey to inner peace. And these are the kind of the things that have helped me. But I added resilience because I thought, since I wrote this a few years ago, have I learned anything more to this journey? And it has been that it's not a final destination, that I do have to regularly cultivate peace in my life. There does have to be a resilience in me. But we get our resilience, and the reason why I put it last is because when we are able to have resilience, build resilience, because it doesn't come naturally, when we know who we are, when we possess a level of humility, can see each other in their humanity, in their strengths, when we can be kind and not judge, right? When we have gratitude. All of these four things add up to resilience, because you can go back to them time and time again. And this is not a linear process. It's different for all of us. But these, to me, and hopefully it's helpful for you today, to think about, how do we get the inner peace? Externally, it feels like it's always going to be a mess. We're not going back to the 1950s when things, at least portrayed, was, just happy-go-lucky white picket fences for everybody, right? This is the world we live in, the access to information that we have. We can hear about every atrocity on earth. And as an individual, we're not meant to carry the world's problems. We got a God much greater than that. God knows what's going on. But we do, because we have access to a million news channels and social media and all that. So we can't look externally for peace. We've got to go internally to figure out, who are we? Do I have humility to see my brother or sister, my neighbor, for who they are? What their skills are? Maybe what their inadequacies are. We love to tease Dan because he's Dan. But some of the things that we love about Dan are also what some people would say are his inadequacies. We joke about it, right? It brings levity to the situation. You send Dan an email and he's getting better. It may take him a while to get back to you. You send me an email, it's going to take me like 10 seconds to get back to you. And it's like, it's funny. But it's Dan. He also can put a sermon together in 5 minutes and blow your mind. It took me 4 hours to put this together. I had to take Friday morning off and sit at home because I couldn't be distracted. That's how his brain works. That's how, and it's Dan. It's the beauty of who he is, right? And I'm just using him because he's an easy target and he's my brother and I'm allowed to. Let's see if I had anything else to say. Oh, did I? I think I have one more slide. So, last thing. Identity, humility, kindness, contentment, resilience. And do you know what we can experience more of? And I think what feels like is out of grasp often, but I think on this journey, and it's not necessarily the end of it, but that we can experience joy. I want you to ask yourself, when is the last time you felt, and maybe you never have, but when is the last time you felt just inexplicable joy? You were just unabashedly laughing or just full of joy. Usually takes us a while to think about that, right? Sadly. And I think peace and joy go together a lot, especially during Christmas time, for a reason. I really do think when we can cultivate inner peace, and it does have to be cultivated regularly in our lives, the avenue to joy, it's like the next door neighbor. It's like we don't got to do a lot more to get to joy. We find that well of peace for ourselves, and it's going to look different for all of us. We continue to cultivate it because life is going to throw stuff at us. And that neighbor is joy. So I just want you to kind of think about that. What is that journey to peace? And you might add things or detract things from what I spoke about today. What does that journey to inner peace for you look like? Inner peace. Go here. I believe, these are my own words and beliefs, I believe we were all born with what we need for peace and joy in our lives. I believe we were made perfectly. Perfectly? Yeah. I think we were made perfectly. If we were made in the image of God and Christ is in us and we are in Christ, we lack nothing. Notice I didn't put any scriptures in today, and that's because my background is psychology and social work. I believe in the scriptures, and I think you can find all of this in scripture. I just didn't add it today. So, little different message today. But I believe that we have it all. And if we don't listen to the external, what's going on. And sometimes it's hard, especially if it's people who are close to you. The things I remember the most are the closest people who've said things to me. And it goes over and over and over my head. That's where therapy helps, by the way, right? Because it's real. Those things are real, and they follow you for decades and the rest of your life. I can still remember them, even if I've begun to heal from them. You can still remember them. So we're gonna ask the worship team to come back up because I decided what to do today, and I wanted to end with a song. Is that all right? So I hope this is just a little something you can take away today for yourself, for your own journey of peace that will hopefully also lead you to the beautiful moments of joy. Thank you all. Thank you. I think I moved yours earlier. Move it back.
Do y'all appreciate Erin? I think we should have her speak every week. She said, please no. Well, before we get started, mostly because I have to untangle my ears because I forgot we were doing one more song until just 2 minutes ago, I also want to give a shout out to the place that the brownies came from because my mind's still on brownies, obviously. There is a little shop, if you like boba tea. Anyone else obsessed with it like me and Katie are? Okay, it's pretty great. There's a little shop in the Rosemary District off of Boulevard of the Arts, is that right? Called Royalty, and the owner's name is Mo, and she's the sweetest human being. She'll remember your name, she'll remember your order, and the brownies came from there. So please go support Mo. Tell her that you heard about her from Harvest, and KK and Katie sent you, and you won't regret it, I promise. But we're gonna sing out of here. Don't rush out. Hug a neck, grab a brownie, but we're gonna sing out of here.
I was walking the west side, lost on a lonely road. I was chasing the high
right, grab a brownie, and we will see you guys next week for William Matthews.